Hello everyone, and my name is iPopris. Today I will be reading the story Dark, Darker Yet Darker by me. Yes, I wrote this story. I just finished it not that long ago actually. I will make mistakes when reading, of course, and not all of them will be cut out. The major ones I do, but just keep that in mind. I'm not a perfect reader. So, anyway, without any further ado, let's get started. In the age of space, humans started to colonize planet after planet, and eventually star system after star system. I remember when we first went to the star system closest to us. That's what my grandmother told me one day. That sparked my interest in the cosmos. I went on tour after tour of different planets as I got older, and apparently her own grandmother had grown up in the aftermath of a terrible war that killed over 90% of life on Earth. Yet somehow they managed. Not even she knew how. But what I do know is by the time I was born, we had managed to send some missions over to Andromeda. And there are even black hole tours, where a group of 5 and a tour guide inside of a large enough capsule are shot off from a shuttle. You go around the black hole and end up back at the shuttle. And I decided I wanted to go on one. I couldn't wait. Now obviously there's risk involved, but that risk is small. And to top it off, the software used to figure out how the capsule needs to be catapulted is extraordinarily precise. It also passes through many layers of checks made by incomprehensibly complex, narrow artificial intelligence models that make adjustments to the course as necessary in real time. Needless to say, the risk taken is so minimal, there basically is none. So I was elated when the day came. I took a Pullman's chamber to the shuttle. Not long ago, a big limitation of space travel was just how long it took. But in the year 2157, Yvonne Pullman theorized that if sustained time dilation could be achieved, then at the very least, the passage of time for those within the chamber would be slowed down enough so that the monumental amount of time traveling takes would be minimal. However, it would still take forever for everyone else. So, when the first Pullman chamber was made, a theory was posited that if you could constantly unform and reform yourself somewhere else, it would be possible to completely solve the time issue. So, these two things were combined into what we now call a Pullman chamber. I arrived at the shuttle and met with the group, and their names were Rick, Mary, Pionmark, and Randall. Rick was clearly younger and didn't look exceedingly happy to be there. Mary seemed a bit older than Rick. My guess was around 28. A bit pale, but seemed nice enough. Pionmark was a slightly oldish man who seemed just as fascinated as I was about the upcoming venture. And Randall was visibly scared. When we were all assembled, the tour guide Cowton announced, "All right, everyone, before we board, there are a few things to go over." Everyone turned their attention to him. "Before anything else, please realize that there is risk involved, though astronomically low, should something go wrong with the course. It is nearly certain we will fall into the black hole. Should that happen, I cannot tell you where we will end up, alive or dead." There was a notable silence after he said that. And then Rick said,
Of course there is. Everything has risk. We will be fine, he said, with a mix of confidence and apathy. At this, Randall said, "You don't know that. We could die," he exclaimed, clearly fearful. Calton then spoke up. "There are some controls on the capsule to adjust the course if at all needed," he then added. "However, should the horizon be crossed, it is over. We will all fall in if that line is crossed." Everyone shuddered. "We will be riding the line. We will be as close to the black hole as is safe. Understand that the risk is low but certain. I ask you all to reconsider whether you wish to go through with this. And once you have decided, you may leave. Or if you so choose, board the capsule." After that, he entered the rounded door that led to the capsule, leaving us to decide. I got on because I had long accepted the minuscule risk in exchange for such a cool experience. It's nothing compared to the nearly non-existent risk that there is with these kinds of things. So, of course, I got on. And pretty soon after, everyone else entered as well. "I love a good scare," Mary said. "That's why I'm here." And after that, Randall looked bewildered at her, saying, "This isn't just a scare. This is dangerous." Rick looked annoyed, saying, "We will be fine. And even if something does happen, it won't matter anyway because we will die." After that, "Go ahead and sit in one of the blue seats and secure yourselves," Calton said. So we did. He then said, "Please remain calm for the jolt of the catapult." So we waited. The seats then automatically buckled us in, and a second or two later came the jolt, and we were off. We flew and the time dilation took effect, and the buckles were undone. Then we all got up and looked out at the abyssal expanse ahead of us. Mary said, "It really is blacker than black." Randall said, "It feels like it's staring back at me." Rick just sat down looking apathetic. "I don't see what the big deal is," he said. "It's just a black hole. Nothing more, nothing less." Calton's serious demeanor had not wavered this whole time, as he gazed out at the black hole. "Black holes are as beautiful as they are megalithic," Pionmark gushed. I was astonished at the whole thing. "It truly is magnificent," I said. "I mean, this thing could kill us at any moment in any number of ways. And here we are, getting to really observe it up close," I said. Pionmark replied with, "Well, it's not going to kill us," he said. "I mean, really, the chances of that happening are so low it doesn't even make sense to consider." The whole time Randall was looking out in awe, so I asked, "You all right, man?" He replied, "I'm here because I'm terrified of space. Always have been." "Well, how are you feeling now? Any better?" He looked down a bit and said, "I don't really know. I feel like crying and laughing, and it's all just..." He stayed silent for a moment. "So much." And he was silent again. "What's your name?" he asked. "Vicinia," I said. "Thank you, Vicinia," he said. "This isn't something you can help with, I don't think. And that's okay. I just need to get through this." So I left him to face himself. Then I asked Rick, "You don't seem very interested. Why are you here if you don't want to be?" He looked at me and said, "My parents." "What do you mean?" I asked. He shifted on his seat and said, "My parents think if I see some huge thing, it'll fix what's wrong with me." "But what's wrong with you?" "You won't understand. You don't know that." "Yes, I do," he said, annoyed. "How?" "Because you've never been where I am, same as anyone else. They don't get it either. What makes you think you're any different?" "Because I have been where you are, and I know how to get out." "It wouldn't make any difference anyway now, would it? Because in the end, we will all just end up in that hole there." Then I said, "No, we will not." After that, I went over and stood beside Mary, looking at the black hole that seemed different, and asked, "What do you think?" "I don't fear this at all," she responded. "But how can you not fear this at all? Like, if you aren't here for a scare, like you said, then why are you here?" "Because I am here for a scare." "But you just said you were here for a scare, but you aren't here, why do you like being scared in the first place?" I questioned. And she said back, "Well, I don't like feeling scared. But you are right. I came here seeking that feeling, and I'm sad that I didn't get it." I felt happy for a reason I can't quite explain. Come to think of it, I was happy because I was on the precipice of getting some answer. Then I said, "But if you don't enjoy the feeling, then why do you seek it out?" Mary answered with, "Because I love everything. But how can I truly say that if I don't take the time to get to know the things I love?" And then it hit me harder than anything I had ever known. I went over to Rick and I said, "I can help you." "How would you help someone like me?" he said. "Don't waste your time. I'll only end up back where I started." So I asked, "I can help you, but you have to trust me," I assured. "Don't lie to me, bitch," he said with all the venom he could muster. "I wouldn't do that," I assured him again. But again, he said, "Why would I believe that? Everyone lies, so I care. I know that you will eventually. So I ask you again, why should I trust you of all people?" So I told him, "Because I love you and I understand where you are and want to help you," I told him. He looked shocked for a second and then said, "Fine, once. That's all I ask." I said, "Now what do you need from me?" As I was about to speak, there was a red flash and a buzzer sounded, and Cowton said, "The course is compromised. In other words, we are falling." I knew as soon as we launched we would fail, but I still said, "I just need you to be honest with me." Rick looked afraid at this and slightly angry as he shouted, "What? How will this help? You said you can help me." And I shouted back, "Just trust me, I can get us out of this." I said, "Now tell me, do you love yourself the way you are now?" I shouted out of fear. "Not even a little bit," he shouted back. "I can see it approaching. I know I'll just go back to the way I was once I'm uncomfortable," he yelled. "But you keep yourself in that situation, even if you don't love that version of you. But do you love yourself enough to change?" The fall continued. "I don't know, and that's what scares me," he yelled. "What if your mother needed to change and it was affecting you, but to do it she needed to leave that comfort? Would you still be able to say that she loves you?" I asked. "No, I wouldn't." The fall slowed ever so slightly as Rick looked stunned as he shouted over the sirens, "Call me Care." I then went over to Pionmark and shouted, "Do you understand how only curiosity gets you nowhere?" The fall continued, "Curiosity is necessary and can take you many places." The fall continued, "Yes, that is true, but you can't always rely on just that. Still, the fall continued. You can always trust curiosity because it leads to observation, and that can never fail. The fall continued. Can you observe what I'm thinking right now? What if I didn't tell you? What if I were to lie? The fall continued, and he went quiet. You can't always rely on what you know for sure, so you need to rely on many things, not just one. He looked beaten. Call me moderation, he shouted over the sirens. At that point, the fall slowed a bit more, and I went over to Randall and shouted, Why are you afraid? The fall continued. Isn't it obvious? There isn't anything any of us can do. The fall continued. Why does there being nothing you can do scare you? The fall continued. Because the thought of not being able to protect the people I want to protect scares me more than anything. The fall continued. What if your fear only increases the fear of those you wish to protect, leading to you being an element of their suffering? Wouldn't that give you more reason to steel yourself and brave the things that scare you? Because otherwise you can't say you love the people you wish you could protect, because you are hurting them. Randall looked empty, then yelled, Call me courage! And the fall slowed slightly more. I then went over to Mary and asked, How do you love everything, yet neglect to get to know those around you? The fall continued. Because I'm here to get to know a part of myself. I do love them, I do, the fall continued. Come on, others can help you while you do that. You always have the opportunity to get to know yourself. You don't always have that opportunity to get to know others. On top of that, a part of getting to know yourself is getting to know others, because how can you know fear if you don't fear losing those you know? The fall continued. Because if I always get to know the people around me, I end up not being able to make time for everyone. It also eats my time up to the point I can't get to know anything else. I love them, so I can't risk hurting them by not being there. The fall continued. But by not being there and not taking that risk, you can't help. You can't help or be there for them, so how can you say you love them? She stopped, started weeping, and through the tears she screamed in anguish, Call me love! The fall slowed, and the sirens stopped. I went over to Cowton in a hurry and said, We need to adjust the capsule's course. Do you know why the sirens stopped? He asked, calmly. No, why would I? I asked impatiently. They stopped because we crossed the horizon. There is no adjustment that can save us now. He explained. But I did it. I was honest, I exclaimed, dread filling my body. And still calm, Cowton said, There is nothing more that can be done. I pushed out of the way, turned all the thrusters to the max. You are only delaying the end, he said. I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven and this could be hell. I don't understand. I did it. I was honest. I was open. This isn't fucking fair. Still calm, Cowton said. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. Angry, I said, Fuck you and your river. Get us out of here. I roared out of rage. And then I said, Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you take control? Why didn't you get us on the right course again? But then, still calm, he just said, I can't do that. You know only you can. Then I said, No, fuck you! Help me here! And still calm, he said, Denial is not just a river in Egypt. Angry, I said, Fuck you and your river. Get it. Oh, I already read that part. You and I both know this isn't honesty, he said calmly. I broke. The silence sat long enough to rot. Then I said with dread, Call me honesty. The fall continued at a normal pace, and we were stretched infinitely, and the thought this could be heaven and this could be hell played over and over in my mind as the difference between me and the singularity disappeared. And that's it. So, you might have noticed quite a few mistakes. Now that's because I wrote the story, and I tend to be not very good at writing. Well, I think that's being a bit disingenuous because I'm gonna judge my writing relative to my skill level, so it's not me trying to be like, oh, no, I suck. I suck, guys. Tell me I'm good. No, nothing like that. I'm just judging it with my level of skill, which is always going to be bad because I do that to myself. Anyway, but I think a big issue with it is, one, whenever I read these things, I usually try to do it on the first take, and usually when I write something, it's pretty much done. I don't really go back and like edit anything. And some of the stuff is kind of laid out weird. So, in short, if you have any questions about how about the context of things, or like what certain things are referring to, because I have a pretty strange writing style, let's put it that way, just ask. Comment. I usually come back to the videos at least. Listen, I'm not going to say once a month. I do it every now and then, all right? So if I leave a comment unanswered, then I can promise you I'll see it eventually. I just don't know when. And I'll try to look more. In fact, I probably will after this video, because I wonder if I got some new comments. If you can't tell, I like reading those. Anyway. But, yeah. This is mostly just a place to put this. If I do edit it, I will reread it, and I will try to not make as many errors. Easier said than done, though. So we'll just have to see, because I say lots of things then don't do them. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, like. If you didn't, just either don't, or if you just didn't like the video, give it a dislike. If there's something I can do better, or anything in general you have to say about it, just throw it in the comments. That's what it's there for. And if you did like the video and you want to see more in the future, know when I post, just hit the notification bell. That's a good idea. You can choose, I think there's 3 different options of how much you want to be notified. 3 different options, not including none, I believe. But I could be wrong. You can also subscribe, or if I said something horrible you didn't like, then unsubscribe. I don't really care. I do these videos for fun, not really for views, even though views are nice, you know. Gives me a nice little, oh my god, people like the stuff I make. But, yeah. Do what your heart wants you to do, not what I want you to do. But I think that's pretty clear. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling, because I could do that forever. Anyway, I have been Ipopris, and until next time, see ya.